The Orlando Magic get their man while Tristan Da Silva checked every single box the Orlando Magic have and what he means for the future. Plus, we'll look ahead to Thursday's second round on today's episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is June 27th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Magic get their man. They draft Tristan Da Silva of Colorado, why he checked every single box the Magic have and what he means for this team's future. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. When Jeff Weltman met with the media after the pick tonight, so maybe there's some coloring here going on, but when he met with the media, he said that the goal for the Orlando Magic in this draft was to get four things: to add shooting, skill, IQ, and positional size. A lot of this stuff is stuff we know the Magic like. We know the Magic like players who are big. We joke about it all the time. It was in that mock draft, and that joke mock draft that came out. We know the Magic like their big players. They like positionally big players. We know the Magic like IQ. They want players who are interchangeable, can fit anywhere and play off of each other. They play a pretty still unstructured offense that's about reads and playing and reacting off of each other rather than going through a set motion. And whether that's a good decision or bad decision is neither here nor there anymore. We know that the Magic needs shooting. So obviously getting a decent shooter is not a bad thing. We know the Magic likes skill. And so with this draft pick, we knew the Magic were searching for certain things. And in many ways, they found it with Tristan Da Silva. In many ways, we always knew Tristan Da Silva was the kind of player who would check off all the boxes for the Orlando Magic. The kind of player who just made sense for this team. No one should have been surprised when Dalton Knecht came off the board at 17. And Tristan Da Silva was sitting there for the Magic to take, that is who the Magic would take. It wouldn't surprise me if the Magic ran to the phone after the Dalton Knecht pick was in to make their pick. That the actual recording of them making the pick is on their socials. We've talked about Tristan Da Silva a ton in this draft process. In fact, one of our first draft Tuesdays, I sat there and said, Tristan Da Silva seems too good to be true. He checks so many boxes that are so key for this Magic team. There's no way he's going to be available at 18. There's no way he's going to last that long. If the Magic, if he has all the things that Magic like, surely someone else will like those skills too. Da Silva is a 6'8", 200-pound forward who went to Colorado, a 4-year player at Colorado, and a 3-year starter. He averaged 16 points per game last year, improving on his scoring average every single year at Colorado. He added 5.1 rebounds per game and 2.4 assists per game. More importantly for the Magic, he shot 49.3% from the floor, his second straight year, especially as a starter, and a key starter at that, shooting better than 49% from the floor. He also shot 39.5% from three, his second straight season, shooting about 39% from three. He's a 38.6% career three-point shooter, 4.8 attempts per game. On top of this, he shot 83.5% from the foul line, suggesting those shooting gains are real, including 78.6% as a free throw shooter for his career. If a player is going to stay in college for 4 years, if he's going to be that kind of player, then he needs to improve over each of those 4 years. Da Silva certainly did that, and he had some big games to close his career including 20 points in the first 4 win over Boise State, 17 points in the overtime win over Florida in the NCAA tournament, including some big shots in that game, and then another 17 points in their second round loss in the NCAA tournament. Da Silva has always been a guy who just helps teams win. That's ultimately what this is about. And Jeff Weltman said this afterward. He is someone that just makes everyone else's life easier because he's going to make the right play, be in the right spot, make the right pass, be unselfish, be a great teammate. These are the things the Magic are looking for. Again, it is no surprise Orlando looked to a big forward, someone that they believe, someone that fits their style to be the answer for them in this draft. Tristan Da Silva was always the perfect pick for the Orlando Magic. And yes, I say that knowing that, okay, if Dalton Knecht was there, maybe the Magic would have taken him because they need the shooting and he's a volume shooter. But Tristan Da Silva was always the guy you turned back to and said, that's a Magic player. That is the kind of player, that is the kind of person the Magic want to bring in. It is no surprise that he is the pick. It is no surprise that he will be on the Orlando Magic because he just makes sense for this team. We will figure out the fit and where his minutes are. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But from a skill base, from a personality base, from idea fit, Tristan Da Silva is what a Magic player is. We'll hear hopefully more about Tristan Da Silva from him in a minute, but let's revisit the prospect review from our host of Locked On Bucks.
Tristan Da Silva is taking his talents to the NBA after a great 4-year career in Boulder. I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Bucks, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about Tristan Da Silva. Da Silva is a forward who is 23 years old and was named to 2 All-Pac-12 conference teams during his career, one of which was this past season. He averaged 16 points, grabbed 5 boards, and his skill set is something that will immediately translate to the NBA because he's a lot like Kyle Anderson. He plays defense, he hits threes, and every NBA team needs that pronto. They need it by yesterday, and he could do just that. For more on Tristan Da Silva and all things Colorado, follow and subscribe to Locked On Bucks on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.
You can see the echoes then of what Tristan Da Silva is. I would say, yes, he is a low ceiling player. Not that he won't get better. He will get better. He will become a better shooter. And I think that's going to be the key to him having success is can he be an efficient and effective floor spacer in addition to a smart and steady attacker. But to me, Tristan Da Silva, it's not about the ceiling being low. It's the floor is high. He comes into the league already skilled. He comes in the league already knowing who he is as a player and how he can help his team win. And that's ultimately the other part of this equation. Because the Magic are in a new phase of their rebuild. Whether the front office wants to admit it or not, or say so publicly, we are in a new phase. The draft is always a push and pull. It's always a little bit of a debate of do you take the best player available, or do you draft based on need? As Jeff Weltman said on Monday and repeated tonight, you hope that those two things intersect. You hope that you get a prospect where that intersects. Where you're filling some needs, or if you're checking off boxes of things that your roster needs in the short term, while also bringing in a player that you can maximize in the long term. I would argue the Magic did that. Tristan Da Silva was the top player on my board when the Magic drafted, and I do believe he is a player that will help this team win. Because that's what Tristan Da Silva means. Because now the Magic seem ready to win. And they got a player and they got a rookie here who is going to contribute. We'll talk more about how Tristan Da Silva fits into the bigger puzzle. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Gametime. Look, there are big events going on here in Central Florida. I know that basketball is done. We don't have a baseball team, but we got the summer of soccer. This weekend, Copa America plays the first of 2 games here in the city, beautiful at Interco Stadium. Orlando City is going on with their season, and your first place in the NWSL, Orlando Pride, are playing unbeaten in 14 games this season. We're more than halfway through the season, and Pride have yet to take a loss. Jump on the bandwagon now. There's plenty of room. If you want to get your tickets to any of these events or head down to Tampa to see the Rays or go to theaters or shows or anything else, Gametime is the place to go. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the start of the event. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Gametime has so many great features. I actually just bought my tickets to go see WWE SmackDown in August. Gametime really did have the best prices for me and allowed me to get tickets that I would feel like are at a good price. And honestly, I probably shouldn't have bought them yet. I probably should have waited to see if those prices go down. WWE's hot right now, so I don't know if it will. With Gametime, you get last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. With flash deals, you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Plus, they have the lowest price guarantee. Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a lower price. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets or really any event tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day, the beautiful thing about the Locked On Podcast Network is the power of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm sure you saw in our feed earlier, I did a sit down with the Locked On host to break down the pick of Tristan Da Silva as it or just shortly after it happened. All of us did that. And if you want the latest on the NBA draft, if you want the latest on the biggest stories in sports from the local experts who know their team best, check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel. It's a continuous stream of the best of the Locked On Podcast Network. They give you the can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. That's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we move forward, let me make this quick announcement. I will be going live on Sunday. We're going to do a live episode Sunday for the start of free agency, react live to everything happening around the league. We'll talk about what the Magic do, who the Magic might be targeting, who the Magic might be losing out on. We'll talk about all that, set the table. We're going to start at 5:45 p.m. Eastern time. That is going to be YouTube exclusive, so I can be on my phone watching the Twitter stream happen. Make sure I'm not missing anything. So if you're audio only, please subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can watch the live show. I will post the audio afterward. We're going to go at 5:45 p.m. Eastern time, 15 minutes before the start of free agency to set the table. Going to go for about an hour, probably go till about 7 or so, maybe longer. We'll see how things go. You'll get my immediate reaction to whatever the Magic do. We'll talk Magic stuff, so bring your questions. It'll be Q&A time too. Check it out, again, on the YouTube channel. Search for Locked On Magic. But since we're here, what does this pick mean for the Orlando Magic? What does it mean for the future of this team? We are working on two tracks here. We are working on the track of the draft, obviously, and adding a new player through the draft and making sure that there is a way for that player to play. You know, obviously the Magic have Jet Howard and Anthony Black, who didn't really get that much of an opportunity to play in their rookie year and will be expected to step into some bigger roles, or at least compete for bigger roles this season. But we're also working on this big free agency track. The Magic are expected to have a little bit less than $50 million in cap room. They will have to spend some of it. We will get to deadlines, I think, later on this week. I may talk about deadlines a little bit more tomorrow. I know we've gone over what the team will do with their own free agents, but it might be time to refresh that a little bit. Update what's going on with some other free agents that the Magic might be interested in. But the Magic have $50 million in cap room to spend, and we do expect them to spend it. They need to find a starter, and Tristan Da Silva doesn't fill that role. I think it'd be stretching to hope that the 18th pick will be a player that you expect to start. You know, we're drafting in the lottery here. Hopefully Tristan Da Silva becomes a very valuable player. But we got to figure out where he fits and where he fits into this team's overall future. Essentially, when I look at Da Silva, he's 6'8", 6'9". I see him as a 3-4. And so I think that he fits very much into the Joe Ingles role. So if you had to ask me, drafting Tristan Da Silva, to me, means that the Magic are going to decline the team option on Joe Ingles and have that extra $11 million to spend in free agency. Joe Ingles played about 15 minutes per game. So that does leave that pathway for Da Silva to get minutes and get minutes immediately. I would also argue that, yes, Da Silva is a player that can play when Jonathan Isaac has to miss games, if that's going to be the case again this year. He's not 6'9", 6'10" like Franz Wagner is, but he essentially can play that role behind him. And I think even step into Franz's role as the starting three when necessary. The beauty of what the Magic did here, and maybe this is an unfair thing to say, and I think the Magic front office, Jeff Weltman and Jamal Mosley, were trying to downplay this aspect of things. But Tristan Da Silva being 23, being a senior who has played 4 years of college basketball at the high level, at the Pac-12 level with Colorado, to me, that means he is ready to play, or he is more ready to play than you would expect a typical rookie to be. I don't think he will have he will have his rookie moments. Every rookie does. But Tristan Da Silva's skill set and his understanding of his own game is at an advanced level. He is an Anthony Black trying to figure himself out, trying to figure out what he can do. Obviously, he's going to have to figure out what he can do in the NBA, but he knows what he is good at this point. Someone tweeted at me concerned that he was 23. He's like, why are they drafting a 23-year-old? I'm like, no, that's actually a benefit because he's going to be ready to play immediately. He's, doesn't need to develop physically. He's a strong dude already. Get into an NBA weight training program, you'll get stronger. But his skill set looks like one that will translate directly to the NBA. The Magic here did not take a project. Let's put it that way. Tristan Da Silva is not someone who's going to take a gap year in the G League. He's not going to spend a lot of time in Osceola. I'm not going to say he won't spend time in Osceola. It's possible. The Magic like to use it that way. But Tristan Da Silva is someone who will step in immediately and make an impact. He is someone that has the capability and the skills to make an impact very quickly. And to me, that tells me the Magic are ready to win. That tells me the Magic are looking at the roster and saying, everyone's going to need to step up and be ready to contribute. Everyone's going to have to be able to add something to this team. We are in the hunt. Now, the Magic didn't make a trade, and we'll probably talk more about trades and what the Magic did or did not do after the second round tomorrow. So we're going to revisit kind of what the future looks like for the team. But the Magic for now are staying with their roster and going to rely on free agency to supplement what they have. What that means, I don't know. We're going to find out here in a couple of days. We'll be on the live show when it all happens. But to me, picking a player like Da Silva over a player like a Keshawn George, who's another tall 6'8", not quite a forward, is more of a wing than a forward. If there's a distinction there, that maybe that distinction only makes sense in my mind, but there's a distinction there. You take a Keshawn George or a Pacome Dadier, they're going to need time. They're not ready to play in the NBA. They need to figure out how to play basketball a little bit. Tristan Da Silva knows how to play basketball. Tristan Da Silva is a player you draft expecting him to play a role for your team, to be able to contribute quickly because, yeah, he's 23, and it's not that a 23-year-old can't get better. He's 23. That bell curve he's a lot closer to what he's going to be and how good he can be now than Anthony Black was last year. It's not that he won't make mistakes. It's not that he won't be a rookie. Rookies are bad typically, but Tristan Da Silva is someone that should be able to contribute quickly. Think about what Courtney Lee did in 2009. Even in that small role, he knew what he was doing. He knew when the coach said, this is your role, this is what I want you to do, he did it. He just did it. Didn't do more than that. He just did it. He had a higher understanding of defense and what it takes to defend at a high level, what it takes to win. That's where the Magic are at with Tristan Da Silva. And that's why, to me, this signals that the Magic are going to be aggressive this offseason. It may not be in the trade market, but they're going to add someone that's going to help them win more games. To be, again, all those things the Magic like. IQ, selflessness, defense, size, all that stuff. 3-point shooting especially, they're gonna put themselves in a position to win more games. And to me, that's what Da Silva really signifies. We're done with the projects. We're done with players who are going to need a little bit of time to figure themselves out and get themselves going. If you're going to be on the Orlando Magic now, you got to bring a skill, preferably more than one skill, to the table. And Tristan Da Silva certainly does that. It is a brand new draft day. Thursday is the second round. The Orlando Magic hold the 48th pick in the draft. So let's talk about some of the names you should know, perhaps, for the second round, if the Magic do choose to use their second round pick. We're going to go through some names here coming up in just a moment. Okay, the second round of the draft is always a little bit of, it's hard. Like predicting and trying to guess who the Magic are going to take in the second round. The world is open now. The reason why the second round was split out into a second day was more inventory for ESPN, but a lot of it had to do with, I think GMs were complaining about how fast and how frenetic the second round could be. And so I think so again, there's a lot of, you're negotiating with agents. Agents work really hard to place their clients because there is no guaranteed contract. So you're not kind of binding someone. So you want to draft someone that wants to be here because sometimes they could get better deals elsewhere. There's a lot of moving around. So the second round is going to be it's going to be different. I think it'll work more smoothly. And there were some surprising players who did not get picked here in the first round, from Johnny Furphy, who was long mocked to the Orlando Magic throughout this draft process, to Kyle Filipowski. Tyler Kolek is a player that I really liked, although he is undersized as a point guard. I don't think he's necessarily on the Magic's list. There are players here that the Magic can grab. And again, the Magic tend to defer second round picks. They tend not to worry so much about second round picks. It's kind of a joke amongst all of us here about that. This is still an opportunity to add talent. If there's a player you like, you go for it. If there's a player you like here in the second round, go get him. It's not going to cost you a ton. It's just second round picks. But this is an opportunity for the Magic to, again, add some more talent and add players to the roster that could be good. This is also the time to take your risk on a project. To say, this is a player that I believe in, but they're going to need a little bit more time. So let's keep him in Europe. Let's stash him in Europe. Let's play him in the G League. This is the place to go do all those things. And so we'll see how the second round shakes out. But there's a couple of names on this list that I do want to note and do want to point out to you to get you ready for the second round today. Let's start with a player that I had graded as a borderline first round pick. I put him in my first round mock draft. 6'6" guard from Minnesota, Cam Christie. Christie averaged 11.3 points per game last year. Shot 39.1% from three, 3.6 rebounds, 2.2 assists per game. He is really still coming into his own, but really got better as the season went on in Big Ten play. One of the toughest defensive conferences in the country. 11.3 points per game as a freshman, 38.5% shooting from three. Christie is considered a big guard, 6'5", 190 pounds. Good shooter. A lot of his shots are coming off the dribble because he's the main creator. That's not going to happen in the NBA. He'll be able to focus more as a shooter. If he can be a shooter, especially, if he can develop into a 3-point shooter, especially as a freshman, coming off his freshman year, that's going to be good. The problem with Cam Christie, and the reason why he's kind of stuck here in the second round, is he really didn't show much else besides his shooting. He really didn't attack well off the dribble. He wasn't a great finisher around the basket. His success is dependent on him becoming an excellent shooter, and he is not some ace shooter. He shot 79.1% from the foul line, which is good, only 2 attempts per game, so maybe that isn't real or not. Making about 4 out of every 5 free throws. 5.4 3-point attempts per game is a pretty high number. 39.1% is pretty good overall. This is a guy that can shoot it a little bit. And so if that's what the Magic are looking for, he might be the best shooter in the second round group, or among the high level second round players. Again, you're looking at a guard, so he may not be a clean fit. He's going to need a little bit of time. That's kind of the thing. But I would keep an eye on him. I did have him as a potential first round pick. The next player I want to talk about is another guard, 6'4", 180 pounds. He is listed as a point guard, 3-time All Big West player from UC Santa Barbara, AJ Mitchell. 3-year player out of UC Santa Barbara, averaged 20 points per game last year, 4 rebounds, 4 assists per game last year, 50.4% shooting from the floor, 39.3% from the three-point line, 85.8% from the foul line. If there is a sneaky good player in this second round, someone that a lot of people are not necessarily talking about that could develop into a really solid player, I would put AJ Mitchell. Again, a little bit of an oversized point guard, big point guard. Magic love that. Showed some ability to score in the mid-range, showed some ability in the pick and rolls. That's what you like to see. He is not overly athletic, and that's why he is kind of in this range in the second round. Not a great three-point shooter over the course of his career. He got better as his career went on. And again, he shot 39.3% last year, under 30% in his sophomore year in 2023, 32.7% in his freshman year. So took a big boost. And that's good. You want to see improvement. Seeing a guy get better is a good thing. I'm not going to knock a guy for getting better. It's just whether is that real, and can he control the pace of the game like he could in the college level, especially in a big West. So, you're not even talking about West Coast Conference. You're talking about one of the smaller conferences, one big conference. He's going to be an interesting guy to watch and see if he can figure it out at the NBA level. But I would keep an eye on AJ Mitchell from UC Santa Barbara. Another player I have my eye on, another guard. Let's stick with guards here. Jamal Shead from Houston. We saw him come here with UCF. I covered UCF for the Associated Press this year. Houston was by far the best team I saw come through. And I did not think they played a particularly good game against the Knights when they came here to Orlando. But that's how impressive they were to me. It was like they didn't play well, and I thought they were still the most impressive team I saw. They got after you defensively. Played for Kelvin Sampson means you got to get after people defensively. And Jamal Shead was the head of the snake. Just a dogged defender. He is pesky. I always describe this about Jameer Nelson, and we'll get to why I'm comparing him to Jameer Nelson here in a minute. Jameer Nelson may not have been the best defender in the NBA, but he was pesky. You knew you were going to feel him because he's big. He was big, had some weight behind him. And so you were going to feel him. You might get by him. You might get forced into help. He's got Dwight Howard behind him. You were going to feel him. That's how it is with Jamal Shead. Now, Jamal Shead's issue is he's 6'1", 190. He is on the small side, certainly on the small side for what the Magic like overall. Averaged 12.9 points per game, 6.3 assists per game last year, 5.4 assists per game 2 years ago for Houston. Certainly played well, jumping up to the Big 12. Just not a great shooter. 30.9% shooter last year, 29.6% shooter for his career, a 4-year career. Didn't really show a ton of improvement. 77.2% free throw shooter, so he's okay from the foul line. Shead is there for his defense, but I think his lack of size and his inability to shoot the three may take him off the Magic's list. But again, if the Magic are looking for good defenders in that point guard spot, in that kind of deep bench point guard spot, Jamal Shead is a guy I would look at. The next player I would look at is French forward Melvin Aginsa. Aginsa is still really young, still really raw. He's probably going to need a little bit more time to develop and just grow into his body a little bit. But like his cousin, I believe it's his cousin, it might be his uncle, Alexis Aginsa, who came to the NBA, just really long-limbed, strong dude, looks like a fluid athlete, just learning basketball skills. And really, he grew a lot toward the end of the year. He had a really strong finish to his season in Europe. Whether he becomes a success or not is going to be about his shooting. And he's just not an excellent shooter at this point. There are signs that he could get there. I would not surprise me if Aginsa is taken fairly early here in the second round, that someone does believe in him and invest in him. But he's got a long way to go with the shooting and just kind of getting himself fully into things. The last guy I want to talk about is Ulrich Chomchi. We had a lot of people expect the Magic to go after a forward, go after a center, go after a big. And the Magic still need their third center, and I don't think they're going to get it in the second round. I was very skeptical of them getting it in the draft in total. But if the Magic are looking for a big and are looking to develop some rim protection and see a guy who's gotten a lot better very, very quickly. He's at the NBA Academy in Africa. He's from Cameroon originally, 6'10", 232-pound center, 7'4" wingspan. You know, we know what the Magic like there. Chomchi is still growing. He hasn't played enough to really kind of cement himself and figure out who he is as a player. And he certainly doesn't have any skills offensively. But this is a very talented, raw, talented player. And the shot blocking's there. The shot blocking potential's there. The potential to be a really good player is there. And so if you draft Ulrich Chomchi, you need to make sure you have a very good development plan. You need to make sure that you're patient with him. He's going to need a gap year in the G League. But he is an interesting prospect to me. I've had my eye on him for a little bit. He is kind of, he's all over the place. But, give him some time and there's certainly talent there to see if he can figure something out. Probably not, certainly not ready to play in the NBA immediately. Like I said, the Magic are kind of in a win now mode now, a little bit but I would still have my eye on him as a potential reach, a potential guy that they say, okay, let's see what we can get out of him. Let's see if we can develop him the way that we want. Those are the 5 guys that I'm kind of watching here early in the second round. Again, it's the second round. There are like a million prospects. There's not a million, but there's a lot of prospects to go through. So more than any other time, this is the time, especially picking at 48, like fairly, past the midpoint of the second round. Very, very possible that either the Magic sell the pick, move on from it. Magic use a pick on a stash guy. They use a pick on a guy that's already agreed to be in the G League for a year and defer a year. That's kind of how these second round picks go. So, may not be one of the big names here, but again, there's still some talent here in this draft. There's still some places that you can go if you can be patient with it. And we'll see if the Magic indeed are. But that's going to do it for us today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them based on podcasts to your podcast-enabled listen device. For latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. And as always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On Sports Day 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube and now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Day now available on the free Fire TV channels app. That's going to do it for me today, though. On tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll go over who the Magic take with their second round pick, plus lessons we learned from the draft to set us up for free agency, trades that happened, trades that didn't happen, and what it means for the Orlando Magic. We're going to get to all that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. Don't forget to tune in Sunday on our YouTube channel. Just search for Locked On Magic at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to cover free agency live at least through about 7 o'clock. So check us out there on the YouTube channel. Again, search for Locked On Magic. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, it's been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.